done what you told me. Give me instructions, don't follow.
Ms. Wagner, do I see you? Can y'all hear me? Somebody shake their head. Okay. I see Linda's on here, so I'll announce the good news, guys. I'm gonna give Linda a heart attack. Effective today, we're not requiring net sheets. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to give Linda a heart attack. So.
You getting rid of the recat too?
I think about 20 people got up and walked out of the office, Linda, so you got problems after today. So no more net sheets. Gonna give it one more minute. We're printing some stuff for the people here in the office. And
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
your video.
I can hear you, Linda.
Okay, thank you. I guess he's ignoring me.
I think he is, Linda.
There's the seller and purchaser. Right there. Come back down. Right, whoa, stop. Come back up. You can go there, or you can go back to the top of the page and get in there.
Right there.
Agent resources. And there you go.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. How are y'all doing today? Good.
Good morning.
See you all. Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Everybody covered up with business, selling houses, or? I have learned over my years in new construction. I had a agent tell me once, agents should take a vacation in July because nobody's buying homes in July.
Not true.
And it's not true, but we do see a drop in new construction of people coming and going, but I think I've probably working on my filter 6 contract this week in new construction. So it is picking up. We are seeing trends of the old markets and having to work and do a bunch of stuff, which we're going to do some training on. And I've sat here and talked about, hey, let's go back to what we're supposed to do, door knocking and all that. I've had to go back to what we're supposed to do in new construction and having open houses, having agents at the houses. I got so lazy as well that we just put it in the MLS and we'd have 3 or 4 offers on it, and that's not happening anymore. And I'm sitting there looking at 15 listings and like, well, aren't we selling them? And I'm like, well, we're never there. And I really started researching my competition, which Horton, Smith Douglas, all the builders that's around us, and we're priced very good around them. But I realized, one, they're offering lower interest rates, which we've tried to match up and do. But then also realized they have somebody on site 7 days a week. And so once we've started kind of getting some people in and working some of the sites, then it's kind of helping. So it's like, hey, we gotta kick ourselves out of the old trends that we've been in. So today we're going to take a little bit of time out for net sheets. And I'm like, hey, to me, it's probably one of the most boring things that agents want to come see is net sheets. And, but it's something we need to do. We need to know. But the main thing I'm going to do is sit here and go over how to negotiate with the net sheet. I mean, I had a deal this week that as I sat there and looked at the presentation on one of my listings, the first one came in, I thought, hey, it's much better, because the second one came in, got a house in Huntsville, the wood flooring scratched up a little bit, so we offered to replace the wood flooring. So the first offer came in full price, no closing cost, but they wanted all the wood flooring replaced in the house, which we were only going to do a certain amount, about $7,500 worth, and they wanted the full house redone, so it's all matching, which was about $10,000. And so we kind of countered back at a higher price to cover it. But then while we're doing that, we get another contract came in that was $6,000 in closing cost. In our MLS, we had in there that we would replace the floor. So if you look at a contract that came in that said, hey, we're going to pay you full price, but we want $6,000 closing costs, my immediate reaction was, that's worse. The first one's a better contract. Does it seem that way to everybody else? Well, we called the agent and said, hey, we're going to cover the flooring, so we can't do 6,000 closing. She said, oh, no, we just want 6,000 closing costs. We'll take care of the floor ourselves. So by the time we did the math on it, it's a $5,000 net better to my clients than the other contract was. And so it's a much better contract. So NetSheets helps us break down a contract and present it in a way to our sellers to know. We have to know every little thing about it, because too many agents just sit there and look at sales price, closing cost, or whatever, and think, hey, that's a better deal, when I almost was guilty of that, because I almost just didn't call the agent and just assumed it was $6,000 plus a floor. And so we reached out and found that out. And so that's why when you sit in there at NetSheets trying to figure it all out. So before we go there, I'm sharing my screen. I need to close this off because I want to go over something that we've been talking about here before we get to NetSheets. This is our commercial of the day, I guess. And so this is avastrealty.com, the website where people can go in, just our clients. If you have your own website, people can go in. They can go to our Atlanta site, Birmingham site, just to look at properties. Has a lot of information on here about who we are. Different stuff in here. It's pretty cool. Up here at the top, it goes over Avast Realty, our listings. There's a join page, so we actually have a place where agents can go and look at joining Avast Realty and some of our recruiting stuff. And so anyway, but what I wanted to really,
Automatically go there?
no, you have to, we send a link out on some recruiting that we're doing. It sends people there. But if you go to Avast Realty and click that, join the family, it's fixing to change to join Avast, but it's running a little slow this morning. So it's just Avast Realty, join the family. And we're fixing to add a tag up there that says join Avast so that agents can go there. So
Our listings don't go there.
Yeah, our listings do. Yeah.
All the agents.
Yeah, all the listing here. And then if you have your own website, then your listings pop up on there as well as some others. But what I really wanted to point out on agent resources for you guys, used to you'd hit that button and it would take you to Brokerman or take different areas. So Chris created the Avast Matrix, which is an all-in-one. So if there's anything you're looking to, how to get into our systems, how to get some training, how do we find it? Just click on that, agent resources, go into Matrix. It has some agent announcements. Here's our training, Healthy Habits of Successful Agents with Heather. That's not coming to one of my meetings and getting donuts and coffee apparently. So, because it's healthy habits, but lunch and learn. But here's the KV core. If you want to launch that, here's how you can get into BrokerMint. Just come in here and click some of the buttons and takes you straight to BrokerMint. Makes it that easy. You can just kind of go in there and do all that. Kind of goes over some of our information, who's here. But then here's BrokerMint. Here's a training, a vast YouTube. If you need more about BrokerMint, it's so easy just to go in here and take some of their training. Our KV Core platform, there's a calendar in there on training that they offer. There's core support, there's core learning, there's Inside Real Estate YouTube. And so all the training you need, if you have a lot of questions, we're here to help you. But that right there is kind of the main thing that you can go to get training. It's all here, all in one spot. There's Homestack, our mobile home app training, how to load it, how to sign up for it, and just a list of all kind of good things that Chris has put together for you guys. And here's what our office hours, how will vast training, office reminders, and other announcements be communicated. We're texting a lot of stuff and emailing a lot of stuff to you guys these days. A lot of it's, I probably get 20 texts a day of different training things that's going on or how to help your business. And I'm sitting there and read it all, see what people are talking about. But I've asked Audrey to start sharing a lot of these things with you guys. And I know sometimes you kind of get another email from Avast, but it's stuff that we're trying to send you. We're going to try to decrease the amount of bingo, stuff like that, especially if you're not in our area. If you're not in Birmingham, if it's not going on in your market, then we're not going to send you texts or whatever. But we're really rolling over on items that we want to email to you guys on what can help you with your business. And so what we have found with Avast Realty is a untypical real estate company is that you guys come in here, you get a much better commission split. But in the past, it's like a warehouse, put your license, go sell. We want y'all to know we're here full time. Most of the other 100% commission companies are just have a little place you can come meet or whatever, all the support's online. But we've never really been that way. We've been bricks and mortar for 11 years, and we're offering services and we offer staff. We've got transaction coordinators. So everything is here for you guys. And we're just trying to help you guys grow your business, because we'll have trainings with 120 agents. We'll sit here and have 5 or 6 in office and 5 or 10 online or whatever. I'm like, where's the other guys? Why don't we all want to learn what's going on? So we're sending some stuff out. With that, I'm talking to an in-house trainer to have 2 or 3 training sessions, lunch and learns. Everything that's about growing your business. We get hit every day about a couple of companies that wants to come in and sell y'all on their mortgage business, their whatever business it is. And I'm not going to ask you guys to come in and take time out of your slot, just come be pitched by some company. If they're going to come in here, it's stuff to train, teach, help you with your business. And we're open every day for what is it you guys need? What can we help you with? Because one thing that I am changing and doing is that we're here for you. We're still recruiting 100% fees, but we are changing to where we're recruiting at an 80-20, 70-30, whatever, depends on that agent's level of work, because the 100% commission doesn't work for everybody. I mean, we've got agents that's just selling 1-2 deals a year. And I'm like, hey, we'd like for y'all to come in here. Let's give you more training. Let's give you more of the traditional real estate company type stuff. But if we're going to do that, we can't do it for a flat, small fee. And so we're pushing to be better for you guys. And if we can be better, then we can grow and help you guys, because my number one thing is trying to make sure that we're here to help you with your business and don't feel like you've got to go somewhere else to get the support you need. So that's the end of our commercial for the day. Let's go to, let me find it myself because I've got to go to here. So I'll put NetSheets. There's a couple of easy things that we could do. When we did this, Levon sent me something that's very good. Land Title has a great app that you can go in on the phone, and we can share some of this stuff with you.
You may want to back out real quick, because I just removed that out of the library. Because what they have, the copies they have right now is that single column one that you like to use.
Okay,
If you just go back out real quick and go to the.
I've already got this one blocked out, so I'm gonna use it, and we can change it. And there's a reason I want to look at this one, so, because I'm gonna pull up another one. So Chris was saying that we've changed to just a single line instead of having 2 or 3. The 2 or 3 comes in handy if you have multiple offers. And so, but anyway, one thing that there's plenty of easy ways of doing net sheets. One is you can call your lender, hey, can you give me a printout of closing cost, and or you can go online and do the land title, which is very good, that you're entering information, and it helps you out with all of these numbers. But I'm one of those, I want us to know, I want you to know how to fill in each block, and it's something that I grew up with in the lending business, that I had to know every number and everything that's, what it's going to cost me, and all this other stuff. And so that's why I'm not going to, this could be a 30-second meeting of, hey, here's landtitle.com, go to them, get a system, and it changes your world. But I think the state wants you guys to know how to do these things. And if you go back and retake your state license, there's math calculations in there on how to figure out net sheets and all that. And to me, that's just part of the professionalism of us, that we're not using cheat sheets, that we know we can sit there and look at it. What if there's a glitch in their system? What if the mortgage guy misses something or whatever? Now your name's on it and responsible. But if you do take a land title form, or take a mortgage company, say a mortgage company prints you out a form, and you get your clients to sign it, sticking in the file, you're getting buzzed, either by our broker or by the state, because they want it on our own form. And so that's why I'm going to take some minutes here. We're going to go over and be open for questions with anybody, but this is a typical net sheet for a purchaser. We're going to take the time to go over a couple of different things here of what we've got to look for. And the number one thing that I sit there and look at, and I've been guilty for on over and over and over, is what most of my loan officers waive their origination fee. And so I've put a 0 there before, and I'm also realizing this is an estimate. And so what I'm trying to pitch to, this is going to my purchaser. And so, so this is going to my purchaser. So on my side, when I talk to them, I'm gonna be high on my numbers, because I want them to come in comfortable, and hey, it made me look good. Hey, I saved you a little money. I shaved your origination fee off, or something like that. So when I come in here, I'm gonna do where it says origination fee, I'm gonna put a $3,500 origination fee in there. And if they sit there and say, hey, my lender doesn't charge that, you can say, oh, I know, because I negotiated that. I tell everybody all the time, Chase, my son, they don't charge origination fee. I'll say, hey, I get them to waive his origination fee. And so, and they'll look at it, and I've got one just got off the phone. Wells Fargo offers a grant, but they charge origination fee. Chase doesn't, and he's got a little package that we'll talk about that's a grant as well. And so if we sit there and look at it, on a deal this size, that's a $3,500 savings for our clients. And so, but always, always, always put a 1% origination fee in there, because if you estimate them up front at a 0 and they have to change and go to a lender that's a 1%, now they're trying to scramble to come up with $3,500 extra that you didn't tell them about. That makes sense. And so, again, this is an estimate. So you don't want to sit there and put, oh, it's going to be $5,000 or something else. So sit there and practice on these things. If we look at appraisal fee, again, this is a purchaser. He's going to get all this same data from his lender, but by law, we have to come in here and do this. So appraisal fees vary from $450 to $550. I've seen some more, but again, we're estimating. So I'm going to do a $550. Closing attorney fees have gone $1,000. I can still see some at $850 to $1,200. Again, we're estimating. So I'm gonna do instead of 1,000, what I always come over here and do is I'll put an extra column over here. Do y'all see what I'm doing? And I'm gonna put 1,000 split. And that's only if my contract says we're going to do 50-50. Again, there's some that I've seen that says, hey, we're going to, we cover it all or whatever. And so just being more upfront. And so now we're putting 500 in there. Recording fees, the recording fees are something that's got to be paid, and it's a simple, you can go into, I sent myself an email this morning, but there's a breakdown that you can go to. Where's my own email? I'm sorry. From Randy. Here it is. And so I sent these today because I went into Jefferson County, and so a deed tax, because you got a deed that's going to be recorded, is 50 cents per $500. So if you got $100,000, do the math. Mortgage tax, if they're only borrowing $50,000, then do the math. There's so much per page, but I'm gonna sit there and calculate. Usually I'm gonna when I go back to my fee here, recording fees again, because we can get away with it, I'm gonna typically say $550, and I'll tell them, hey, it may be $300, but I'm not gonna leave you short. And so unless you're doing a multi-million-dollar deal, kind of find you a number in there somewhere that works. Tax service fees, it's rare that we see those, but I still put a $75 fee in there. Title policy, on a loan this amount, it's going to be about $1,700. Again, I come in here, put a note.
You said that recording fee is 50 cents per what?
Let's see, let me go back to my note. So per Jefferson County, it's 50 cents per $500. You got $100 deed tax. And then if you sit there and look, it's $16 for the first page and then $3 additional pages. So do we know how many pages are in a standard mortgage? They're all different, but you're probably going to be, if you sit there, 16 for the first page and then 3 for every page after that. If it's 20 pages, it's 60 plus the 16, so you $36 plus about $300 or $400. So that's where I come up with a $550 or so, something like that. Again, try to be a little bit high. If you want to throw $1,000 in there, your mortgage lender, when they get it, they have to be exact, and they've got a calculation that sit there and run it. We are still estimating, but I promise you, when you estimate low and they're sitting there, they're going to go back to this form and say, hey, wait a minute, you told me it's only $200, and now they're going to want you to pay them $600 their money back because you were wrong, even though we sit there and circle that big E for estimate. Still going to get you a title policy. There's formulas out there that we can shoot you some formulas out. You can pick up the phone, call your title company and just say, hey, here's a $350, the title, what's it going to be? And you're also sitting there with this, and some people know this and some don't, that the contract says that the seller provides the purchaser a title policy. And they offer a title policy 100%. So if it's cash, then the seller pays for all of it. But if there's a mortgage, then they split it. And the reason why is because they're still paying for the owner's policy, and then they're combining the mortgage policy because there's two different policies going out there. But what you always want to ask, especially if it's a buyer, is do you want to add a buyer's policy? Because at the end of the day, when there's a title problem, they're in there in 6 months, and all of a sudden somebody's making a claim of a lien on the property. Now the mortgage company's covered and the title's covered. I mean, yeah, the title company's covered, the mortgage is covered, and the everybody's covered except the buyer didn't buy an owner's policy there. And so anyway, it's just a very little extra in there that you may want to start adding or whatever. But I'm gonna say $1,500 is typically in a $350 range. I sell a lot of these this price point, and maybe a little bit more. And so that means our purchaser is going to be paying $750. Underwriting fee, again, underwriting fee is something that most people do charge. Either they charge a 1%, Assurance doesn't charge a 1% origination. They charge like a $1,200 underwriting fee, to where a lot of people charge a 1% origination fee and a $900. And so Assurance and a couple other companies I've talked to do that. And so I'm gonna put $1,100 in there, because now I'm combining my 1% origination fee with a underwriting fee. And again, we're just trying to be estimating and make sure we're a little bit high. On a survey, what does a survey say? Most of you guys know in the contract. It's an option that if the buyer wants it, then the buyer's got to pay for it. But again, if it's negotiated in the contract that, hey, we want it and we want the seller to provide it. So everything in this right here has to be matched up to your contract. And so whenever you send in this out, we're going to assume, and good luck on finding a surveyor this day and time. So, and what changed that industry is, used to, surveying companies would get set up. You had a guy that been doing it. He was a certified surveyor. He'd hire people, they come in. And so that business grew, but then the rules changed to where now they have to go and get a degree in surveying. And so it's knocked off a lot of surveyors from being able to get out there and perform. So there's a big void in that market. And what I've been told, a lot of that people, by the time they go and get a degree in surveying, they can get an engineering degree and make more money doing some stuff. But so I don't know what they're going to do, but that's an easy $550 for a little small lot. VA funding fee, we're going to assume this is conventional, but that is something that you need to know on the VA funding fee, because VA charges a fee if you're doing a loan. They're 100%. FHA is a lower. There for a while they were 6 1/8, while everybody else is 7 1/4. I think they're up to about 6 3/4. The market's kind of up and down a little bit, and so some of those fees, it's all loan dependent on what kind of program they're going through. And so to me, on those funding fees, I call the lender and say, hey, if it's VA or if it's FHA, give me the updated, because FHA was a higher, like 0.625 or something. Now they came back and dropped it to like 1/4 or 3/8. And so it's a variable in there. So yes, sir, Stephen.
VA funding fee, is that not financing a loan?
It can be, and so they do sometimes, and most of the time it is, but we still have to disclose, because that's part of the APR, and so what we're trying to look at is what's the actual cost in there. So even though it's in the loan, now they're buying a $200,000 house and they're paying a $1,200 funding fee for VA, it's in there. They need to know that even though it's not paid at closing, it's built into the loan somewhere. And so it's still a cost to them, and part of what the government requires is a disclosed fee. Dot prep, processing fees. I always, every now and then I see that little $50 thing there. Courier, termite bond. Again, termite bonds, there's two things in the contract on termites. I do a lot of new construction, so the builder provides that anyway. It's something he's got to do. It's a new policy. But the contract states typically they want a wood infestation inspection. Who pays for that? The buyer pays for that. Unless it's, you can negotiate. If you're representing the buyer, you can negotiate for all of that, because why you would negotiate that if you're talking to the seller's agent and, oh, we're fixing, the bond's up for renewal, so they're coming to do an inspection. What they're coming to do, it include this in there, let the seller pay for it. And so you just saved your client $150. So always ask for that. But and
That happened one time and the seller paid for it because they were coming up on the time anyway, then the seller would not release that.
oh, really? Okay. Well, because you didn't put it in the contract. And so, it just, hey, get them, if y'all didn't hear that, she had somebody that the seller paid for it, but she wouldn't release the report. The truth is the report to me is not that important. As if they came out there and saw something and they're reissuing their bond on it, then you're covered. And so, and our neighbor upstairs that has a whole upstairs floor is called Termite Tom. It's Campbell Law Firm. All they do is sue termite companies. And so if that termite company goes out there and sees some issues and they don't disclose it and they know a buyer and they do a transfer, now they're guilty. And if they, buyer gets in there and they see some issues and say, hey, well, they just inspected it. Then, what the termite companies requirements are is they're supposed to treat, there's two policies, there's a treatment policy and a replacement policy. So if they're out there, they see active termites and it's just a treatment policy, then they'll just spray and kill the active termites and then move on. But with the replacement bond, they have to go out there and treat the termites and then search for any damage. They can come in with these scanner guns and see, if there's any wood damage or if there's anything you see, then they have to replace all the wood and sheetrock and everything else with their bond. And so, so that's one thing. If you're representing a buyer, ask for a full replacement bond. All my builders do that. A lot of the reputable termite companies would do a replacement bond. It's not a whole lot more expensive. And a lot of what we're seeing nowadays is just, they don't come really spray anything. They're just putting a little Centricom green, y'all walk around and see a house that's got little green things all around it. They put the baiting station out there. And most of the guys I talk to say, if there's termites, they're going to go to that. And so what that does, if they see active termites and they can put poison in there, and the termites come, they get it, kind of like an ant colony or whatever. They take the stuff back to the queen and kill the colony that's under the house or whatever. But just because you see termites don't mean you've got bad wood or anything else. And so they'll come in and check for any damage and stuff. I remodeled a house and man, we started doing some stuff in the kitchen and pulling cabinets and all the walls were falling down and man, just termites had eaten it all. And nobody knew it. So we wound up stripping the sheetrock out of the whole house and didn't find any more damage, but I just wanted to make sure we weren't selling somebody a bunch of wood infested, a bunch of termite infestation and stuff. So termite bond infestation report, typically that's your buyer. We're going to tell them, everybody I see that's $150. Y'all seeing that any higher than that or? Okay, so $175. Unless you negotiate that, because down here, there's also, with a termite bond, that's always, if there's one active, they transfer it over, and the seller typically will pay the transfer. If it's not, there's a lot of people out there without termite bonds, then you negotiate that the seller provides you a termite bond and they pay for it. Septic tank inspection, cleaning, we need to change that to sewer inspection cleaning as well. Typically, if you're selling a house with septic tank for an inspection and cleaning, it's very rare that they're gonna come out there. If they just come out there and say, yeah, we don't see any bubbling in the yard, everything's good, you don't wanna leave your buyer with that because the tank could be full. And so most of the termite companies, by the time they come out there, they're gonna clean it and charge, and that is typical of charge to the buyer. And they're gonna charge $450, $500, clean the tank, so that's like fresh and new, check the yard, make sure we're not seeing anything there, so.
Randy, in Jefferson County, you're supposed, every time they clean a tank, they're supposed to report it to the Department of Health.
Yes,
And that's how I usually call them to find out last time it was clean, because if it hasn't been clean for me
Yeah.
in the last 2 years, then I write in that they will have it serviced and clean.
yeah, okay. So Levon was saying that the Department of Health, and I think in most areas, they keep up with when they were clean, so you can call and check it out. That's an easy, hey, let's just clean it out anyway and check it. Why I said a while ago about sewer, I had a house in Vestavia that the agent put in there for a sewer inspection. And I'm like, I've never actually had that in 20-something years, but they checked it. They come run a camera in the house and through the sewer connecting to the county sewer line. And we've recently had one that was set up to close, and our agent failed. I mean, they wanted an inspection for the sewer. Our agent failed to do it, or ask them about it, follow up. And so like 2 days before closing, they get a sewer company out there, and come to find out the sewer lines between the house and the county in the street was broken. I mean, there was roots in it. So there's a lot of areas downtown Birmingham, a lot of areas in Vestavia that we're seeing sewer damage. And if it's between the house and the county sewer, it's almost like your water between your house. Everybody gets that insurance letter from Birmingham Water Works. But if it's from your house to the meter, then you've got to pay to fix it. That's your property. And so luckily we got this one caught. Yes.
I also had an incident where the home inspector came out and the house was on septic tank,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't find it. And
Yeah.
come to find out, on the older houses, be careful, because a lot of times they'll do addition.
Yeah.
And these people have built a beautiful master suite right over the septic tank.
Yeah.
Needless to say, the deal died. Yeah.
My parents have my parents' house, we bought an old house and remodeled it, and by the time we got to that, it's under the master bedroom. And so we put a hole in a door in the wall of the crawl space, and so we can get in and get to it. So yeah, what Levon was saying was that in older homes, sometimes people will build over the septic tank. So the inspector was out on this one job and couldn't find the septic tank, and wound up the house was built on top of it. So so that's why you do want a septic tank inspection and a cleaning, and you do want sewer inspections. I'm telling you, if it's sewer, even if it's newer homes, I mean, we just had a house we sold last year, so it was still under builder's warranty. And 6 months in, their basement's flooded with sewage. I mean, it's just horrible. And so they sent the guys out there, and out where they connected it to the main sewer line, something broke. And so it just started backing up. And so the builder had to fix that. And he also went in and replaced all the carpet and walls and cleaned up the place. So it was it was very nasty. And so, so anyway, that's why it's very, very important. Look, in a contract, we also have what is it called, Linda? It's a buyer's acknowledgement. There's a form. A lot of people don't use it, but you do need to, because everything in there, they acknowledge that we suggest you get sewer inspections. We suggest you get all these other things. But if you're writing a contract and a buyer, which they were doing 2 years ago, is, oh, forget that. Let's just buy the house. And I'm just wondering how many homes were bought that's got real issues because they weren't doing inspections. They weren't doing anything. They just got in. And now they're like, oh my God. Yes,
Who
ma'am.
would do the sewer inspection? Who would probably be a plumber or?
There's certain sewer inspection companies in Birmingham. And so there's plenty of them out there, because What you see, sometimes you'll see a big truck with a round drum on the back of it, and then they got a line. They've got this little gadget that they just run, and it's got a camera on it, so they can. And what they do when I do a development before it gets passed, and we do all the sewer trunks and everything, and they come do a video of all of my lines and send it to the county, so we can sit there like watching a movie and see sewage. And in this one, it's got some stuff you don't want to really watch that movie, but you know, it's showing whether it's active and flowing and everything else. Yes, ma'am.
So if the sewer inspection about the same price?
Yeah, sewer inspection is about the same price. It's going to be, yeah, $350, you know, and the difference in that is because they've got technology tools. They've got a camera. They've got to run down there where the septic tank guys, you know, he comes out there, spits his tobacco, and oh, this ground looks good, you know, not making fun of anybody, but that's how it works. That's everyone I've seen. And, you know, and so it's very easy to see septic problems. I mean, you can tell, a lot of times you can pull up and smell it if they're having bubbling in the yard, or if you go out there and see a bunch of lime, you know, hey, what's the lime? Oh, we're just treating our grass. I'm like, no, you're not. I mean, a lot of people having issues with septic tanks, they'll put lime out there just to kill the odor and stuff like that. So, but we don't take it on ourselves to go out there, oh man, this looks good. So I always get it done. I had an engineer one time was doing a development, and we dug all of our holes before we get a subdivision in. We have to go do perk tests and soil samples, and we always leave this 6-foot hole for the health department comes out there, crawls down the hole, and they study the layers of soil and all that, and they can tell with that if it's going to absorb water and all this stuff. Because a lot of problems you're in clay areas and stuff that just won't, you know, it won't pull the water. It's designed to, the tank catches all the waste, and then the water goes out and gets absorbed into the ground. And so if it doesn't absorb it, it's going to work its way up and start bubbling. And so, but my engineer sitting there is like, man, this is great soil. I said, no, it's not. I've been doing this long enough. And sure enough, it wasn't. So don't trust your engineer. You got to trust health department and people that are professionals in this that'll tell you that it's good. Because if Jimbo's septic company comes in and gives you a report, oh, it's all good, and you have problems, guess who gets to pay for it? Jimbo gets to get his little butt out there and go after it. He's got to have insurance. He's registered with the state of Alabama. And so anyway, any more questions on that? Okay, final inspection fee. Why I always put $200 there is, anybody guess? Final inspection, the appraiser goes out, somebody goes out, an inspector goes out, and there's things that needs to be fixed. And now you want that inspector or that appraiser has to go back. They're going to charge $150, $200. So you may not have to have that, but again, we are letting our guys know doomsday's coming. Here's all these fees that you got to pay. And so even though we're sitting here knowing, hey, there's 3,000-4,000 fluff, property taxes are prorated. And really something on there prorated, I think we all get a little bit lazy to look at, but there's an easy calculation is you can go to the tax records of the county and pull up this property, and it'll tell you what their property taxes are. So if they're $1,200, then that means it's $100 a month, and taxes are collected October the 1st. So if you're closing a house right now for your seller or your buyer, and you say you got October till July, what is that? 10 months. And so now the seller is responsible for 10 months of that. If it's $100 a month, that's $1,000. So your seller has to cover $1,000 of that. And so what we know is, so now it's $1,200, we're collecting 10 months. Your buyer is going to have to cough up 200 of that because he's got to cover the next couple of months. And so, you know, so it know how to answer that question. And so, yes, ma'am.
That question just blows me out of the water all the time.
Okay.
I don't care how many times I've been told.
Okay.
Okay, so this because taxes are collected in arrears.
Yes, ma'am.
So the seller, so we're closing here in July,
Mhm.
and the seller is responsible. Why haven't the seller hasn't paid that already? Because they've not been collected already.
No.
They were going to pay in October.
And so October, this past year, he paid the previous years.
Okay.
And so October this year, he'll pay the 2023 taxes. And so, look, if you're representing your seller and he's got a mortgage and the mortgage company's collecting that, you can tell him, hey, there's going to be $1,000 taken out of your proceeds here because you're responsible for the taxes as long as you're there, but your mortgage company should have it. Tell him to call, check your escrow, and he can sit there and look and say, all right, he's going to get that $1,000 back because, so they're not double paying it. And so,
Isn't that weird for them to even do it that way? Why don't, when I pay in October, I'm paying taxes right now?
yeah.
Why would that even be that?
Well, for them to do that, I mean, it started out in the arrears and really even your mortgage. When you pay January mortgage payment, you're paying the interest for June. And so when you pay August, you're paying the interest in the arrears. The only time you ever pay any interest up front is prepaid interest. Like when your buyer closes at the 15th, say if somebody's closing this Friday, say the 14th, they're going to collect 17 days worth of interest for July. Do you know why? They can't charge you, the state or the federal law is when they loan you money, they have to give you at least a full 30 days before they can charge you the first payment. And so what they do is prepay, they collect the rest of July's interest up front, and then you won't have a payment August 1st. Your first payment will be September. So now in September, they're collecting August, which to me, it would be easier in September, they collect August and half of July's. But that's the only time you'll ever prepay anything as a purchaser. Everything else is in the arrears. And the main reason is federal law mandates that they can't pre-charge you for services you haven't gotten. And so it's kind of like a taxation without representation. And then you also need to, if we're sitting there talking about taxes and how to calculate that, you need to look and see, is it class 3? Does it have homestead exemption now? And if it doesn't, I just had one, we were high on our taxes in the MLS because my builders owned it. And so there's no homestead exemption. So I just went in doing a calculation for another agent is, hey, all the other homes around here are $1,100 to $1,200. Ours is $1,500. So it's going to be $1,500 for this October. And then after that, they can file homestead exemption. And so what happens there is their escrow is going to be higher because the mortgage company's basing it on that, unless you can get the seller to pay, because the clause is in there that if it's not, if they say it is and it's not, then they have to put up the money. Well, there's another negotiating term in the contract. If it's a builder, but what most builders will do is they go ahead and now they get to go in there and state that nobody's lived in it. And so you can get the homestead quicker. But if you're buying a rental property and it's been there, it doesn't have homestead. So make sure you ask for, if there's $500 difference, is, hey, the seller's going to pay the difference between class 3 and the non-class 3. So
How does that work if a person lived in the house and they were disabled?
mhm.
And then somebody comes along and buys that house, so they're not paying taxes.
Yeah.
Does that next person pick that up for that next year? How does that
Used
work?
to, yes. The county would change. The question was, if y'all couldn't hear, is if somebody's in the house disabled or elderly and under a certain income, then they're paying zero tax. So yeah. And so the way that used to work is if you bought it in July, you would get to enjoy their zero tax or whatever, the cheaper tax or whatever. The county got smart on that and realized they're losing a lot of money. And so now you move in today and you don't qualify for that, that goes away. And so That's the only time. If it's higher, they won't let you change it till October. So the unfairness of that is if it's higher and now you're homesteading it, it kicks in October. So you still have to pay higher. But if it's lower and then now they know it's going up, they start it immediately. So that's called government. And so, you know, they're here to help us. So anyway, I'm sitting here, I forgot to look at chat. Somebody's got to tell me, do we have chats? I'm sorry. And I guess, Chris, is my sound on? If anybody asks me questions, I don't hear anybody talking, so you might want to yell at me. I'm all the way up. Anybody have any questions online?
Sorry, what?
No, I'm just checking.
We've been monitoring.
Okay, so Linda had a little chat going on like she thinks she knows anything, but
We didn't want to bother you.
I think we have both net sheet styles. You can pick which one. If your purchaser doesn't want a new survey, ask the seller to provide his. We just did that on one we're fixing to close. Older homes have tree roots invading and blocking sewer line. You know, I was kidding with Linda about what she knows. We just see this crap every day. And so I tell everybody, you know, when I first started this, I tell how old I am, rates are at 18%, dropping. And in one of the other meetings, I'm like, hey, I've seen the highest and the lowest interest rates in the history of the world. But I've also seen a 5-page closing package. You sign the mortgage, the note, the HUD, a couple other documents, and now it's probably 200. You know, I was at one the other day, is like 2 folders. Everything that Linda just put in here and everything that those addendums refer to as a lawsuit, that somebody's screwed something up and now everybody's covering their rear end. And so we're even looking at our new agent contract, that it was simple. Most of you guys that joined up front, it was 2 or 3 pages, and now it's the lawyer got a hold to it. And I'm like, God, I'm scared to work here anymore. And so, so we're doing a blend, but when you sit there and look at it, you know, section 2, line 34 represents a lawsuit from some company out here, not us. And so it's kind of crazy. And so that's why we've got to be on our toes with everything we have. Anyway, moving on down. So know the tax prorations, insurance, tell them, you know, I sit there and guess at it when we talk homeowners insurance in here. What?
I've had a formula for that for years. There was, filter glass is the purchase price of the home divided by 1,000 times $3.50.
Okay, call your insurance agent. And
But if you don't have time to call, I've just used that figure for years. So.
yeah, there's a formula. What is it?
It's the price of the home.
Price of home
Times 1,000.
times 1,000 divided by 1,000.
Sorry. Divided by. Let me make sure I got it right.
There's a formula for everything. So.
Yeah, I picked up the formula from
You know, when this was a men's business, we had no formulas. You smart women came in and just helped us all.
So
So
if you divide the value of the home by 1,000 and then multiply that result by $3.50.
okay, so home price divided by 1,000, multiplied by 350,
Yes. And
and
that gives you your estimate. for the
yeah,
year.
and when you call Geico and they laugh at you, you can blame Chris. And
Well,
so
it's just a generalization.
and so the variables of that,
It's just an
yeah, estimate. So the variables, what I'm trying to figure out, if Allstate's saying we save you 350 and Geico say we save 350, somebody ought to be writing us a check to have our insurance policy somewhere. I mean, it's just like crazy. So anyway, so homeowners insurance, look, again, I estimate in that. I mean, you can sit there and use Chris's formula, but I'm typically going to add 1,500 to 2,500 in there on insurance. And again,
Price of the house and where it is.
yeah, it depends. And so, anyway, so are we clear on the taxes before we move on? It's the same thing. It's a price. It's a simple, go to Jefferson County. They have tax assessor, click that, it'll open up your file. It tells you how much the taxes have been, how much it is. Divide it by 12 and go from October till closing date. And that's how much the seller has. And the difference is how much the buyer has. But also in here with your mortgage guy, when we get down here to prepaids, there's property taxes. And so that's really where you come in, and the mortgage company's gonna make them, the mortgage company's gonna collect 2 to 3 months of that. And because what they look at is if we close here the 15th, there's not a payment in August, so there's a payment in September, and then taxes are due in October, so they may collect 2 payments. And so if there's 5 things, they're gonna collect 3 months or 2 months, and so there's some variables there. So anyway, home warranty, if you're representing a buyer, get one all day long. If you're representing a seller, recommend it all day long. We've got pamphlets in here. I've seen Old Republic. We like America's Preferred. Not for any, there's some things that you guys can get a feedback from them, but the good thing about them is they offer, I went to a friend's house yesterday, little lady down here, and her air's not working, and she's got America's Home Shield, and her air conditioning's out. It's been out for a week and a half. And she called American Home Shield. She's like, well, it'll be 2 weeks before somebody can show up. And so once we found out, my son's in the heating and air, and I've done heating and air with my apartments and all that stuff for years. We go down there 5 minutes, we've got our air back working. Apparently, and I did one last night on a call. One of Chase's friends, her air was out at her house. And with all this electrical surges that's been going on, there's a little trip factor within the compressor outside. And so you can open it. In both houses, we've just hit the reset button and they kick back on. Now this poor lady had fans. Her house is 100 degrees. And so we went down there. So the difference with America's Preferred is she can call her people. She can call around, and whoever will come, they'll call them. They say, hey, we'll pay $100 for this service call, whatever, just to get you there. And so, but the other guys are having to call their preferred, whoever they've networked with. And so I don't really care. I mean, we're not making money one off the other, but my bet and my money's going out to this. The America's Preferred also, if you do sell a new construction, like with Horton or anybody, you get a 1-year warranty, and some of these builders give you a 2-10 warranty. Really, the 2 through 10 is worthless. It's more warranty. I mean, it's more structural. You feel like you got a 10-year warranty. America's Preferred has a 2 through 4. So typically a 1-year warranty is $699, roughly in there. I think there's $695, and that covers years 2 through 4. So year 2, 3, and 4, everything's under warranty with their package. And so
What was that one again?
it's America's Preferred. We've got the pamphlets.
After closing?
Yeah, you'll do it at closing. And so, or you can do it after closing, your buyer
Really
can,
quick.
yeah. And so, look, you can do it a year after closing, but you have to wait a year. So yeah, because I was going to try to be smart when I bought my last new home, is a year after I went to set it up. And so you've got to wait a year. And so it's really a good investment for them. That's why it's so cheap, is because the builder's covering the first year, and typically in new homes, there's really not that much. The air conditioning is covered for a 10-year warranty with a lot of it. So
One cousin with Horton system, they no longer cover microwave, something else. LG is in there, it's LG products. So now LG covers those.
yeah, well, and really in any contract, even in mine and LG, we assign our warranties on appliances. So the builder never really warrants any of the stuff. We call the company that provides it. I've got one right now that the refrigerator was delivered, had a little ding in the door. The guy delivering it, they take care of it. We've had issues with it. They just call Alabama Appliance. They get Whirlpool or whatever out there. So really, they've never offered anything on LGs. It's just a factory warranty. So at closing, they do an assignment because Horton or any builder buys that appliance. So really they're the purchaser. So what you want to do is make sure that they're going to assign all those warranties over to your people. So, and then your people goes in and the buyer goes in and goes online and registers it and gets the warranty. And I would also, from learning, and we're going over about an hour and I'm nowhere near close, but I've gone on like with Frigidaire, instead of buying one of these warranties, they offer Frigidaire, a lot of the manufacturers, once you go in and register it, I think I paid $300 to cover all of my appliances and everything else. And like 2 years in, I had to replace my refrigerator and they came and replaced it, and and it was out of the standard warranty. So there's a lot of good factors there. Let me get moving with this. Yeah.
Or something major when it comes to the client, they may not have somebody come out and repair it right then, you have to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Get somebody yourself.
Yeah. If you couldn't hear, she's just talking about a lot of the appliances. Look, these going out and not being covered, it's good to get a warranty and factory warranty or one of these warranties or something else, because I'm in my house within a year or right after a year warranty went off, our microwave went out, and that was a $500 purchase. And so I'm like, should have got the warranty. And so anyway, so warranties, we don't mandate who you do. Flood certification, I don't know if I've even seen that charge. That's kind of an easy, but always put $100, put something in every box. And, other miscellaneous, I'm always putting, say, 300. And so prepaid interest, everybody know how to calculate prepaid interest. So $400,000 mortgage, you're at, let's dream again, we're at 5% interest rates. And so 400,000 times, so you take the loan amount, 400,000 times 0.05, which is 5%. So your annual interest that you're paying is $20,000. And then you divide that by 360, it's 365 days in the year. You back out holidays. We got so many holidays now, it ought to be back out 200, but you do a 360 calculation, so you get your daily interest rate. So on a 400,000 a loan, 5% interest rate, your daily interest, what it costs you to live in that house, is $55.55. And now, depending on when your closing is, if you're closing on the 31st, you can put 0 in there. That's why this whole industry's moved to close the end of the month. If everybody's wondered why, it's so that it saves you money in prepaid interest. And it doesn't. And so it's all the same. And so, so you close it, but if you close on the 15th, you've got to figure out 400,000 times 5% divided by 360, you get your daily per diem. If y'all have ever seen that, what's a per diem? When a payoff letter comes in, it says payoff is 400,000 today, and the per diem is $55.55. Means from today till closing, it's 10 days, then you take 55 times 10, so you got an extra 550 is how they calculate their payoff. So the same thing on the interest. And again, this is the only thing you'll ever pay up front. And so if we're closing on the 15th, then we got 15 days. So we'll take that 55 times 15. And so now their prepaid interest, if we close in the middle of the month, is $833.33. Everybody understand that?
So Randy, you said the price times the interest rate.
The loan amount times the interest rate. And if it's 5%, that's a 0.05. If it's 6%, 0.06, 6.5, 0.065. So multiply that and then divide it by 360. That gives you a daily per diem. And then if your closing's on the 10th and there's 30 days, now you want 20 days, because what they're doing, I went over a while ago, is prepaid interest is like, if it's after the first, nowadays they can allow 2 or 3 days, But if you're closing basically after the 4th or 5th, you're paying 26 days of prepaid interest. So because they cannot charge you a first payment in August, they have to wait till September. And that's where I said it's really, everybody thinks, oh, it's saving us money, close the end of the month. I'm like, okay, you close today and you pay 15 days of interest. Now you don't have a payment until September. Yeah, you won't pay August, you got one in September, so you don't have a payment for 45 days. If you close the end of July, you pay the first one September the 1st. So either one, they're September, so it's all the same. So it really doesn't save. Some people are just scraping pennies at the closing table. And so that's why we push some of that. Homeowners, let's say 1,500, you can use Chris's calculation is home price divided by 1,000 times 350. Okay. And that's with Chris Krill insurance. So anyway, property taxes, again, we've taken, and again, these are prepaids. Everybody know the difference in closing costs and prepaids. Closing costs is what the lender charges. Every lender charges different fees. Some charge inspection fees, some don't. But everybody has the same prepaid fees. I mean, there's not a variable. So one mortgage company can't say, hey, we're saving you this, we're saving you that. You got to pay prepaid interest. You got to pay homeowners insurance, escrow. You got to pay property tax escrow. And so where this is different from proration that we did a while ago was, again, if we sit here and say, all right, the house is $1,200 a year. So we know we've got $100 per month tax, and we're closing end of July. So there's 7, 8, 9, 10 months that they're paying to 1,000. So we're going to sit there. We know we've got the insurance company is going to go ahead and collect the $200 plus 2 months interest. So they're always going to be 2 months ahead, or 2 months of escrow. And so that leaves us with $200 our guy has to pay, and then 200 in escrow. So they're going to escrow $400.
I want to ask a question. Being that property tax from the government is always billed in arrears, but you're saying a mortgage company bills like $200 payment in advance.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, that's called prepaid items. That whole item is prepaid. On your homeowner's insurance, they require you to pay a full year in advance. And on the taxes, they're going to collect at closing the prorated, that $1,000 that's prorated is not coming to you. That's going to be in here. And really, I guess I can go back, and Linda's probably cringing. Property taxes, when they prepay this, they're actually going to collect 10 months here plus 2 months escrow. And so your lender's going to sit there and say, hey, we've got to collect, and on your CD, used to be a HUD statement, they're going to collect $1,200. They'll probably collect a whole year's worth of taxes. Where that's not coming out of your purchaser's pocket is because on another line item, he's getting $1,000 credit. So 1,000 of that is being credited to him and thrown into escrow. And so, but what he's really responsible for, he or she, is $400. Depends on the closing time. And so I see a lot of stares and whatever, but look, if you learn this, I mean, if you're a professional, you're doing this, know what that is, because you want to sit down with your client when they sit there and look at it. When their lender sends it to them and they come to you, what is this? Know it. Don't sit there and say, let me see what land title says. I love the land title. It makes it easier, but learn it. So conventional PMI, FHA, MIP. So that's another lender, because if they're going FHA, like I said, I think it's now, so if you're at 400,000 times 0.375, so it could be 0.0. So it could, the FHA funding fee could be $1,500 that they have to prepay up front. And so that's just FHA insurance, and they put it in there. And so FHA has the lowest interest rate, but by the time you calculate their additional fees and stuff, it's less down payment, but it's going to cost more And the reason why you need to know this is before you go and negotiate for your buyer is how much closing costs should we ask for? And so if we're sitting here with, somebody got a calculator, some 3590 plus 550, 500, 550, 75, 750, 1100, 550, 50, 175, 450, 200, and then 100, 300. I messed something up. So let's just say it's, I'm not going to recalculate it, but you here at total closing costs, you calculate all of those things and put it there. And then you come down here and calculate the prepaids and all that stuff, and you put it here. And so by the time we put, I'm just going to use some numbers. Say we're saying 5,500 for closing costs. We got 15,334, 4233 in prepaids. And so, and then they've got to come up with, if it's FHA, and this is a 359.035. So now they've got to come up with a $12,565 down payment. Now we know they need 1621, $22,233 to close. I may have done that wrong. And so that's important before you get a contract. You know, if you get out there and negotiate and, hey, we're going to pay $359 and the builder's offering, which I'm offering right now, $2,500. Some builders are offering $5,000. What I do, I mean, when we're sitting here and you back out to $12,000, so they really need $9,733 for closing costs and prepaids and all that. And so unless they just sitting on a lot of money, I just did a contract, they want to pay all their closing costs. We've got approved lenders that will cover some of the closing costs. And so your negotiation to them is, before you make an offer, is ask for 10,000 closing costs and let them come back and offer 5. And so, because there's a category here, what we're trying to get to is how much does your client need at closing? And let me straighten that number out, because did I lose y'all? There's a lot when you sit in here. I feel like my college math instructor professor is like, man, everybody was sleeping. I love the numbers and get into it. But if you don't, but what we've got to do know, so we're at 9, 10, 11, that's 12, so 16, 22. I'm just gonna, it doesn't have to add up for a training class. It'd be nice if it did, but say $22,000 is what they need. And they've already say they're putting up $1,000 earnest. And so seller, so this box right here is what changes your life. Seller contribution towards buyer closing costs. So if your seller is willing to pay $5,000, so what we need is, we've got 22,000 total minus $1,000 earnest money. It's already been paid, minus 5,000. It's my calculator, it's not me. 22,000 minus $6,000, so 16,000. I heard somebody gets an A in my class, man. You get the, so you need $16,000 at closing. All right, if you don't figure this up before you start looking at your clients, if you wait until you get a contract and you just spend all this time fighting multiple bids and everything, and you, all right, man, we're under contract, and you deliver the contract with this net sheet, and he's going to say, well, I told you I only had $5,500. You just wasted your time. So get your clients, go over, kind of get a figure on price point that they're looking for. And the number one thing there is send them to your lender and let the lender tell you, hey, they qualify for this much money. Because there is a grant program that First Horizon offers out there. It's up to $12,000. They have to make First Horizon. Yeah, First Horizon Bank. I can give you a loan officer. Chris, my screen's. And so it's up to $12,000, but you have to be less than 62,000 in income. And so with that puts you in that 250, 300,000 purchase range. But if your guys are driving brand new Lexuses, it's like, hey, with that income calculation, they get the 12,000 grant, but now they don't qualify for the mortgage because their car payments are too high and stuff like that. So
Okay, say that once again. So now the grant is how much?
it's up to $12,000. It has to be in a low to moderate income. And so what the government has helped the banks out.
Somebody on Social Security?
It could be, yeah. And so, look, and it depends. Dollars, whatever. And then they don't have any debt, and they're buying to qualify for that 1,800, they're buying a $650 monthly payment. So they're going to be more in that 100,000, 80, 100, 120. It works. And so it depends on price point. There's also a program out there. I've had two assurance offers it, another company. It's an Indian tribe in Ohio that's in the mortgage business. And they're offering, like on an FHA, they have to qualify for the FHA. And then they'll give them a 3.5% grant if they qualify. And grant doesn't have to be paid back as long as they're current on the first mortgage. And so if they keep making their payments and everything else, they never pay that grant back. So there's some programs out there. Down payment assistance, I get emails from a company in Atlanta that's all they do is they're researching, finding down payment assistance and all that out there. And so really, if you've got a client that doesn't have any money to put down, now we're sitting here looking at this, total need is $16,000 from these people to be at the closing. And we put them together at a $12,000 grant. Now they only need $4,000. I guarantee you, you can probably get your seller to bump up. Or when you make your offer, because I had one the other day, we just closed, closed about a month ago, is that they came in at $5,000 over list. And I'm like, man, we're still getting over list. And, but then they asked for 5,000 closing costs. And so don't be scared to do that. I mean, as long as it appraises, build it into your price. To me, that's why it's very important to have some numbers at there, run a calculation. Look, I love it. And I know Chris and LaVon loves it, the land title app. It helps you. But again, I want y'all to figure.
The only reason I like it is because, I didn't mean to interrupt, it's just, I have land title, I have everything already set up, I already knew all my numbers.
Yeah.
So my estimation numbers, I've already figured high anyway.
Yeah. Well, our job with the state, and I tell everybody, we don't issue your license. Your license is with us, but you work for the state of Alabama. You're an independent contractor licensed by Alabama Real Estate Commission. Our job as a brokerage is make sure you know this stuff. And so if we sit here and hand you cheat sheets or whatever, we're not doing you guys a service. It's like, hey, because really, how professional are you going to look when you sit there and you're going over this and you show them a land title calculation and they say, well, how'd you come up with that number? I don't know. And so
The key is to be able to explain it.
the kids, I don't think the kids care, it's just like.
Another company accidentally sent me their net sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw it, I went into shock. I could not believe it. It had 4 lines filled out.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, what is this? Because it was not complete.
Yeah. Well, and I'll confess, I've got some buyers. I'm selling their house, and then we were looking at buying. The lender had already gotten them pre-approved, and their total closing cost was $8,500. They were wanting to know, kind of see a net number, so I sent them a net sheet the other day, unofficial to my broker. We're going through and recalculating as we go under contract. But, you know, I sent it that said $8,500. I didn't break down, but I knew that number came from somewhere, and then I added the prepaids. And so I did do that. But when we're going under contract today, Linda, I am breaking down the closing costs and all that other stuff and what they've got to pay, so we can get them to sign it. So yeah, on rough ranges, when you're first meeting them and all that stuff, get those numbers. But again, what I pointed out a while ago is what after you've shown them all these houses and met them all over town. That's why I don't do buyers, man. I ain't riding all over the world for them people. I don't care if they're A1 pre-approved, it ain't gonna work for me. And so
No, it's not that the only thing you don't like about buyers is you found their house, you took everything into consideration, and they wanna change their mind, you're like, nope, I'm done with you.
yeah,
Cause you found exactly. what
buyers
you
are
had.
liars. And so
Yeah.
So real quick, last 5 minutes, if I'm sitting there doing a seller net sheet on the listing up front, I don't have to break down all these fees. What a basic contract says, and when I take one on a listing, is I'm saying all we're gonna offer is half attorney, half title. So I'm taking my 5%, 6% commission, put it in here. I'm taking a $1,000 attorney fee, putting 500, 1,500, depends on where you are. And that's all I'm netting to my buyers or to my sellers. Now, if there's an area where I can sit there with my builder and say, hey, we need to offer 5,000 closing costs, let's build it into the price, which I have done. Hey, we're $399, here's where we should be, but let's be at 405, 406 and offer some closing costs. Then that's when I go in there. And so, but again, you need to be careful. Whenever you do this on the listing, you can do it at just, I mean, that's all you've got to do is half attorney, half title. That's what the contract says. And you can put in there some stuff like the termite bond. You ask them, do you have a termite bond? If not, you've got to have one at closing. Recommend a warranty, but you don't have to. And so if you don't put in the MLS that, hey, we're providing warranty or closing cost or whatever, all that the starting point on a contract for your seller is half attorney, half title, and the title of the termite bond. And it states in here prorated at closing for the taxes and all that other stuff, because they get their money, whatever if it costs them $1,000, and tell them all day long, hey, you got to pay $1,000 of taxes at closing, but you're getting $1,000 back from your lender, so you're breaking even there. And same thing, homeowners, hey, you'll get a refund from your insurance if it's certain time or whatever there. And so where you've got to really be specific is when you get that offer back. And I'm going to show y'all one quick thing so we can get y'all out of here. I can sit here and talk all day long, but let's see. So this is the sales package that I did, estimated net sheet. So this is where the 3-column came in handy because we had 2 offers. Again, the first offer we're $399.9. I did a 3.5% listing fee. I did it for one because I'm selling them 2 houses, you know, so I'm like, hey, I'll help you sell yours in Huntsville. But say I did the $1,000, so I'm charging them half, 17.5. So across the board on both offers were the same. This one wanted the flooring, which was $10,575. And again, just initial glimpse, I almost just said, hey, this number one's the best offer. But I picked up the phone and called because I knew we put in the MLS flooring. So I'm assuming they didn't say anything about it, but they're going to go on what the MLS had to say. And if I didn't clarify it, I would have either turned it down or assumed that they didn't want flooring. But I'm like, it's very important to know, because in her contract, this contract had 0 in closing. This one had 6,000 toward purchaser's closing cost. And looking there, knowing what we said we would do on number 2, it was the worst. It was out by 6,000. But when I called the agent, and then when I sent the contract back, we put in there. We made sure I didn't take a word over the phone. Oh, no, we don't expect flooring. And then at closing, hey, when they putting the flooring in? We didn't sign anything. And so if I sit there and compare them all, then this one would net my clients 373,000. This one's 378. And so turned out, I thought from initial look, before I started breaking everything down, I'm like, let's go with number one. They're ready to go. I know the agent. Today she's mad at me. And so, because her clients really wanted the house, but they came, and I'll also say this, is that we had a deal with them on all the flooring on this house. And what cost her this was she came back and said, hey, we want to pick out what flooring goes in there. And so now I can put a $5 a square foot floor in this thing, looks good. They're going to come back. And so that changes my flooring bid to $10,575 to $20,000, or I don't know, because if they go pick out something, we would have added an allowance, but she kept on negotiating. When she had a deal, she opened up the negotiating door, and I'm like, okay, you messed up. And so in here, the sales contract, Huntsville's a little different. If y'all are Huntsville, I love your contracts. Breaks down a whole lot more stuff. But we went in here, again, I get them all the time. Oh, well, we assumed y'all were going to do that. But I put in here in the contract, no flooring repairs or replacement is required in this contract. Flooring is accepted as is by purchaser. Now, do y'all think if I wouldn't have put that in there, they'd be asking me at closing, when's the floor going in? They would have, because it was in the MLS. And so get arguments all the time. Well, it's in the MLS. So anyway, what I like about their contract is with the two, we sent the one out to be signed on the house. On the first one, we initial the reject and send it back to the agent. So they know, hey, we're rejecting you. We're not making a counter. Or you can click counter, attaches our form on how we're countering it. So it kind of helps you know where everybody is. All right, I'm through. Sorry if it was agonizing, but yes, ma'am.
Back to the, what was the equation you said for the traditional PMI?
I gave you the FHA. It's the loan amount times, what did I say, 0.375. Yeah, it used to be 0.625, and so FHA just cut it in half. And then if you sit there and take that formula, so there's an upfront funding, and then they also, you take that, divide it by 12, and 1/112 is their PMI insurance premium.
Loan amount times the FHA.
Yeah, 3.75. Now the PMI insurance is very rare anymore. Used to, when I was growing up, you would have to go to Republic Mortgage or somebody and get a PMI insurance policy, and they would charge you $200 a month, whatever insurance. What most of your insurance companies have, or your mortgage companies have done, is if it's over, when you call and you get a quote, I'll call Chase all the time or call a loan officer, what's your rate? What's your credit score? What's your loan amount? Yeah, all this other stuff. And the reason is because used to, if you had a 500 credit score, you got a worse interest rate. Now, if you got a 500, you get a better interest rate. So crazy stuff. But that could be good for some folks. But if they're making a lower down payment on a conventional and it's less than 20%, to get 80% below on a conventional, there's no insurance. Above 80%, there's used to be PMI insurance, but now it's calculated into the interest rate. And so you're going to get, instead of a 7% interest rate, you're going to get a 7 1/8 or 7 1/4. And so what they do is they call it pre-funded insurance. So instead of the mortgage companies paying an outside insurance agency, they just realize, hey, we can create a fund on our own for losses. And that's what the insurance is it covers if they have to foreclose and sell and there's a loss, that insurance is there.
Give me that first Horizon loan person.
I will, and I'll give you,
Calls.
yeah, and I'll give you Chase's. I mean, the Indian grant is as good.
Okay.
And when I was,
You're gonna tell me or send to me, I gotta showing at 12.
Okay, well, you can go. I'm sorry, I kept you too long. I saw you. I didn't know, I didn't know if you had to go to the bathroom or if you need to go sell a house, so I thought, time out so she can go. So, yeah, we'll send it to you.
Okay.
I'll get both of them.
That call I took, that's what they need.
Okay.
So they're-
Do we have Martin's card here or?
Let me look.
Okay.
Around here somewhere.
All right, all you, let's see, stop sharing my screen. I want to go back to anybody. Any questions? Did everybody leave us? Did I put y'all to, look, everybody online sleeping, so. I'm sorry, it's not a fun. I love it. I love the numbers, and I'm telling you, it's very important in your negotiating. And especially if you're, if you're comparing, or if you're, and I made a note here, when everybody's sitting there talking about Andrew Chase's too, because he's got that grant as well. There's
I
one,
already have Martin in my phone.
hand her Chase's
I'll
pamphlet,
text her.
but there's.
Randy,
Chase's
that's what
pamphlet.
I wanted to know more about was the grant. Can you
Okay,
go over that a little bit more, or who provides it?
yeah. First Horizon, guy named Martin Sanchez. I'll give y'all his number.
I'll text whoever needs text. I have most of y'all on my phone.
I think that was Dawn.
Is that
I mean,
Dawn?
no, that was Ginger.
Ginger?
Yeah. And I was talking to two lenders yesterday about the Indian grant and, shouldn't call it the Indian tribe grant. I mean, they're a mortgage company, so it's IOTA or something like that is the loan program. So several lenders have that, but then depends on the factor. There's still some Alabama housing or a couple of things that's doing 100%. But the good thing about those two grants is you don't have to pay them back. And so, let me get, if anybody's got a number, let's see, Martin,
I already texted.
well,
You said that there was a company that, was able to, that constantly search for a first-time home buyer program.
yeah. It is called Down Payment Assistance. And if you Google Down Payment Assistance, and I can pull them up, Martin Sanchez is 205-213-7434. 205-213-7424. I repeated that. Chris was chewing gum, couldn't write it down. And so, and then Chase at Assurance is 205-612-4046. So, I mean, if y'all can sit there and get your folks some 12,000.
What's Chase's last four digits?
4046. Thank you, Miss Michelle. You're too nice. So,
And Chase provides that grant too, or his
he
his
has
company?
yeah, their company has if you call him and ask him, he'll tell you about it, but it's, I tell him his dumb dad said he thought it was IOTA or something, but just tell him it's the Indian Tribe Mortgage Group.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so, anything else, any other questions? Or again, I like exciting how to go sell, but look, I've sat there and I actually won a few bids back when everybody's multiple bidding, because as a buyer's agent, if you don't know your closing cost and you're sitting there working for your buyer's net on what he's got to have, make sure when you're offering a contract that your concern is what the seller's net is too, because again, there's a lot of realtors out here that don't know how to break down a true net sheet. And what I did on one was we sent something, but I broke down, I sent my seller's net sheet with my contract, because we took out warranties, we took out, we covered the termite, we covered everything in there. So it was all 000. And so I backed out their commission and did, little things so that they would really see what my contract was. And an agent actually said, I thought your offer was a little bit higher than some others until I saw your net sheet. I'm like, are you dumb as hell or what? But you can't depend on an agent getting multiple offers being smart enough to break it all down and dig through. I mean, I've had multiple, who else had a listing with multiple offers is like, God, I just want the highest, everybody thinks the highest sales price and the lowest closing cost is it. And I'm like, it's not, so.
I have multiple offers,
Mhm.
and the one she ended up accepting was the buyer wanted her to pay $1 toward his closing costs.
Yeah,
And the title company called me yesterday and said, he's asking her to pay $1? I had to explain
Yeah.
yes and why.
yeah. Hey, and I'm gonna tell y'all something else real quick. I know I keep saying we're gonna end this but instead of asking your seller, or I've had some people that they came in, we couldn't go any more on the price, but they needed 5,000 closing costs. So we just went from $399 to $404, $405 to cover it. The best way to do is get your lender, especially today, even with rates up. If rates are at 7, get him to price out a yield premium, because what you can do is get a 7.25% interest rate. And what that does to the lender is now at 7.25 instead of 7, they've got a premium. Could be 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And so what I've always done in new construction is I'm like, why do you want to pay me $5,000 more when we can just build it into your financing on your interest rate? And the interest rate, the payment may be, it's all going to work out, because either you're paying a mortgage on 5,000 more, or you're paying an eighth or a quarter, depends on how much money you want. And especially this day and time, you can get in and get those closing costs paid off. And as long as you're in that for 6 months and you refinance, when rates get back down to 2.5%, you refinance or whatever it gets, or 5% or 4%. Now you just wiped that $5,000 out that you needed to help get in there. So talk to your lender and ask them how can they bump the rate up to help cover closing costs. They'll do it all day long.
Randy, on multiple offers, I had a contract where the house was $449.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still getting calls on this house, but there were multiple offers.
Yeah.
And I did the net sheets. But one guy came in, now the house was $449. He wanted to offer $480. So when we counted back, I put in the contract that he agreed to pay that even if it didn't appraise.
Yeah.
He started backpedaling.
Yeah.
So
No.
that's a way to keep people from, because what he was hoping to do was she would look at this big number, take it, and knock everybody else out. Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all heard that, but she said she had offers and one came in much higher, but they took it, but they put in there that they had to buy it regardless, and they started backpedaling. So a lot of people would do that just to get your contract. And there's a lot of investors out there that's been sending offers in just way high. Chris had one on his house. Hey, here's X amount of money, and then they do an inspection, and it's $100,000 worth of work. We're going to give you this. So now you've wasted 30, 45 days on getting their inspection, and it works for them because most people at that point are exhausted. Oh, I don't want it back on the market. Let's just go. So be careful with that. And because you got to know what it's going to appraise for. We're all incensed an appraiser. I'll have people call, hey, if we want an appraiser to tell us what it's worth. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. I mean, we do the same thing appraiser does, take square footage, average sales price of homes, and do a calculation. And so before you go into that, know what it's going to appraise, because you could get 480 and it's only going to appraise for 440, 450. So the deal's not going to work unless they've agreed to pay that difference. So, okay, time to cut me off, and I've got other calls to make. Hey, I'm here if y'all have any questions. Thank y'all for showing up and being here today. We're here to help. Again, I want to remind you guys of the matrix that's on avastrealty.com. Anything you need is there. Also, we have Trello. Is that on the matrix as well?
No, Trello's just for our.
Just for us? Okay. So the chat board, the Avast Realty chat board.
Avast Realty chat board's on Facebook.
That's on Facebook. Y'all go in, and if you're not a member, join that so that you can see announcements and stuff. But we're going to text you, we're going to email you, trying to keep y'all informed and trying to be better for you guys. So y'all have a great day.
Thanks, Randy. Y'all too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.